Well, hello everybody, and welcome back to this special bonus content for Education Impact 2021. I almost said 2020. It still is hard to believe that we are 3 months into this new year. But I am really excited to be here with a special panel of our speakers who were with us live in person and a selected studio audience who has stuck it out for the long haul. And we're going to quickly answer a few questions that you may have. As you might imagine, we are moving so fast during the course of the normal program that we cannot respond to everything. But our goal is to at least take a smidgen, a little taste of all the questions that we get from people and to be able to respond to those so that you hear answers to your most pressing questions. If you do have additional questions, I again encourage you, comment on this video, comment on the original Facebook video. We will do our best to try to follow up and answer those over the coming weeks and months. And again, I always encourage you to visit the websites of our partners and friends. They have a lot of resources on these individual websites. So I want to start off with a question that we got actually from one of our fellow panelists, Rochelle Price. And it is Price. I got the last name correct? Good. Rochelle, thank you for your question. She asked Lance a question about this new ethnic studies curriculum. Unfortunately, we did find out it was just approved today, this Thursday, the 18th of March, by a unanimous vote. Tell us what types of flexibility, what type of leeway might individual school districts have when it comes to something like that?
Yeah, no, I mean, because I think like when you look at these curriculum frameworks, models, I mean, what you have are guidelines basically for local school districts. I think one of the videos was talking about the history and social studies frameworks, and it's similar with the ethnic studies curriculum. And so it's not necessarily a day-by-day, hour-by-hour, minute-by-minute type of thing. You know, it gives a guidance. I mean, it's very radical guidance in many ways. But I think that, what local school boards, school districts like yours, Rochelle, can do is to make contact with the folks who are basically putting together a counteroffensive against, the ethnic study. Not necessarily against ethnic studies, but the way it's taught as part of critical race theory. And so there's a movement called constructive ethnic studies. And so there's a group which I can put you in touch with and put you in touch with the key people that are promoting what they call constructive ethnic studies, which is that type of balanced approach that we all want to have when we discuss some of these difficult issues, not this one-sided, radical, socialist, Marxist type of revolutionary teaching that is going on, unfortunately, not just in California, but throughout the country. But there are groups that are pushing or advocating for a more balanced approach. And I think what's important for people who believe, I think as all of us do here, is that we can't be in silos. You know, we have to know about each other. And so, because there aren't enough of us to begin with. And so therefore, if we're going to be able to win this battle, we're going to have to make sure that we find all our allies. And so they are out there, and I'll help you do that.
It's a wonderful answer. Thank you, Lance. Any comments from the rest of the panelists, that question?
Well, I just wanted to, is my microphone on? Yeah. Can you hear me out there? Sort so? Okay, how about there? There you go. I've seen how these frameworks are passed by the Department of Education, and then the frameworks, the activists take the frameworks and they come into the school district, and they almost use these frameworks as a way to bully school districts into saying, hey, this is the law, school district, so you must teach what's in the framework or the model curriculum. Mm-hmm. But school districts have a lot more flexibility and a lot more power to determine their own curriculum than most school districts, most school boards insist upon. And I've seen way too many school boards get bullied into thinking, well, I have no choice here. And you really have to push back on the state. I mean, if the state is there dictating all the curriculum, then there's really no reason for you to exist as a local school board. right? School boards are supposed to reflect the local values, the community values. That's why we have local school boards. So assert your own power and, push back.
But that's why I say that you can't fight something with nothing, right? Just because you don't like what the other side is pushing, but you have nothing to offer, then you're still going to lose. Even if the parents support the opposition, because the other side has something positive that they're promoting. And so unless our side finds that, and I know that Norman Gonzalez and John Adams has a counter to a lot of this radicalism, but I mean there are those other curriculum tools out there and materials, and we need to find them.
And I would just echo what Greg said, that there's a big difference between California state standards and frameworks. Standards are required to be taught, but frameworks are suggestions on how to teach the standards. And so if you're seeing a framework come down, you don't have to put that in your classroom. And so if you've got board members out there, parents out there that see some of these objectionable frameworks coming out, you can stand up and say that is not a requirement. And so when your district staff or folks in your district or in your public schools are telling you they're required to do it, you need to be informed and know the difference between an actual requirement or guidance from the state on how to teach the standards.
And I want to reiterate the thing that's so important. This was a phenomenal question, and it was a great discussion here. The thing about these frameworks is that they really are slippery in the ways that they are argued. I cannot tell you, especially in regards to ethnic studies, I was talking with some liberal friends of mine, and I was raising some of these concerns about, specifically, some of you guys might have seen some of these videos of school districts in certain parts of the state chanting to Aztec deities as part of a team building exercise. It was really frightening. And when I brought this up with some of my more progressive friends, they said, oh, come on, you're just scaremongering. That's not in the curriculum. That's just in the framework. So they want to have it both ways. When it is being discussed as something controversial, oh, no, that's just in the framework. We don't have to worry about that. But then, like Greg said, when it comes to implementing, no, you have to do this, it's in the framework.
And I think that you're right, Jonathan, is that, and you can see that by looking at the comments of the even more radical teachers and practitioners who want to use the frameworks, right? They think in some ways that the frameworks don't go far enough, but they realize that they have the tool, and they have actually been pretty open about how they're going to use it to go even farther than what the frameworks may say in black and white on paper. But it's the frameworks give them a foot and they'll take a mile.
So we could probably spend a whole day just on this topic, but I want to move on for sake of time and talk. I apologize. Your first name again was Sarah. Sarah had a great question talking about a chaplaincy program. We're talking about the rights and the flexibility that local school districts have. Kevin, can you talk about, we heard from Eric Buer with Gateways to Better Education, the idea that a lot of teachers, a lot of local districts have a huge amount of flexibility regarding what they teach about Christianity and religion in general. But if you have a chaplaincy group, you have people who want to actually come and provide spiritual support on campus, how does your organization help, and how is that done here in schools in California?
Well, in California, that has happened, and that is typically at the discretion of the school district. They will allow a chaplaincy program. Another opportunity is that youth ministers can often go and visit their youth group or others. At lunchtime, they would have to go through proper procedures, checking in and whatnot, but that's another alternative. And the third alternative is through the Christian clubs, is ministers are often invited by the club to make a presentation during their meetings.
And I can tell you from personal experience, I know I've spoken on campus at public schools many times, and one time it was a Christian club that invited me to come and talk about the pro-life issue. There's obviously great organizations like Youth for Christ or Fellowship of Christian Athletes. So there really is, again, a huge amount of freedom that students have. Now, again, in a lot of cases, it has to be student-initiated or student-led. But if you are the parent of a child who is in the public school system, they have an immense amount of freedom and opportunity to influence their school site for Christ and to make an impact in that regard. So I want to take our last question from the audience. Speaking of impacting our school sites, I apologize. Your first name one more time? Maria. Maria had a question. I'm going to direct this to Greg, but then open it up to everybody. How do we want to see faith-based organizations, especially churches, but parent groups as well, how do we want to see these groups engage? And specifically, Greg, I know you and I have done a lot of work with churches over the last few years at the Capitol. Whether it's at the Capitol or whether it's at local school meetings, you're also a parent of public school kids. How do we want to see the church engage on these issues?
Well, I think they need to see their own mission as part of the solution, right? As part of the answer to this issue is churches need to take on and teach their congregations that, hey, parents, that education is your primary role, and we here as the church are seeking to encourage you to take that primary role and support you. And if everybody knows that, if you look around during the week and you look at church buildings, big church buildings with big classrooms, lots of them sit empty, right? Churches sit empty all week and they're occupied on the weekends. So they have these buildings that are available that they could provide some type of education, either a school they could start, they could do a homeschool co-op. I mean, I remember being part of a church that a lot of people homeschooled, and the church would open up for twice a week. Individual parents would teach various elective classes that one parent was great in art, so she would do an art class for a bunch of kids, and another person was great in biology, so he taught a biology class. I actually taught a government class, and we just used the school, the church classroom as a schoolroom. And so there are so many opportunities for churches to get involved, but they have to see it as part of their role in society. And too many churches, they don't. They think it's maybe it's liability issues, maybe it's cost, who's going to run it. But there are a lot of creative ways that churches are getting involved with providing alternatives for parents.
I would just say also that one of the number one inhibitors to opening good quality charter schools is a lack of facilities. So even if you can go through the political turmoil of getting your charter approved and you've got a groundswell of public support, the next question you have to answer is, well, where am I going to educate these kids? And if you don't have a facility, then you can't bring the school. And so knowing that the church community has facilities available throughout the week, if a pastor comes to a situation where they say, gosh, I love the idea of helping my flock, I love the idea of helping my congregation, but I don't even know where I would start. I would encourage the pastor to say, reach out to your educational community, reach out to folks that are involved in education that would partner with you. Right? Go to a John Adams Academy, go to some of these non-classroom based charters, do a co-op where you bring in somebody to provide you assistance around the educational model, and then you provide the faith-based wraparound. So you've got your faith formation for all your kids that are coming in, and you don't have to do it alone. So there's a lot of partnerships out there. You just need the pastors to be willing to take their facilities, see it as a mission, and look for that partnership so that they can make it happen.
And I would just also say is that, I think oftentimes when political issues, education issues come up at churches, it's because like some extremely bad bill is about to be passed by the legislature or maybe signed by the governor. So it's like, hey, send your letters, send your emails, try and stop this bill. But the thing of it is that bill occurred because of an entire ecosystem. A political ecosystem created that bill, right? And so just telling your legislator to stop and vote no on this bill, that doesn't take into account what produced that bill in the first place. And so, for example, the teachers union, we had Rebecca Friedrichs talking about the teachers union. And the teachers union creates that ecosystem in the legislature. How are we going to, if you don't want that bill to be passed, we got to do something about the teachers union. Rebecca talked about her organization for kids and country, her Adopt the Teacher. Those are the kinds of things I think that in between the bad bills being passed by the legislature, those are things that congregations, that parishes, churches, they can do, and be on the side of teachers who want to do the right thing, who believe as you do, and to take away the talking point from the teachers union that they represent all teachers. And that's really important because, as we're seeing with the pandemic, the union is claiming to talk for all teachers, and it's clear and obvious that they do not.
And earlier Scott talked about affecting the culture, right? We're talking about impacting culture and education being one of those spheres. And I think too often we sit around and we expect to go over to the tree, with a legislative tree, and pick the fruit that's off the tree, but we forget that part of that is building the culture in which the tree can bear fruit. And it's going to take water, it's going to take tilling the soil, it's going to take fertilizer, it's going to take hard work throughout every day of our lives in every sphere of influence that we have in order to build the culture for the legislature to bear fruit.
Man, those are such perfect analogies. I really love this. I would love for us to continue this for another 20 minutes, but we are actually already past our timeline. But I can guarantee you, if you're watching this online or if you're here in the audience, this is not the last time that you were going to hear from this panel. It's not the last time that you're going to hear from this assembled group of leaders. Last year, we were able to do an event called Faith Impact 2020. We did it in, I believe, October. It was leading up to the election. And this year we did Education Impact 2021, but there is a whole host of other opportunities. For example, we had one person ask, is it possible for us to address higher education? We have the great, amazing president of William Jessup University, Dr. John Jackson here. Can we get him to answer a few questions? And we just ran out of time today, to be honest. But that is hopefully a seed for something we're going to do in the future. Just as a show of hands, anyone be interested in attending an event about higher education and ways we could impact it? That's kind of what I thought. No hands went up, that's right. So, I think that is something that we're going to try to work on for the future. No guarantees on timeline. We got to catch our breath from this first. But I encourage you, again, share this video, share the original Education Impact video. Sign up on the website if you have not, educationimpact.us. If you have not signed up for text messages, do that as well. Text Education Impact, all one word, to 77222. And again, thank you for your commitment, your prayers, and your action to make a difference for students, for parents, for teachers, and for our entire culture as it relates to education. God bless. And thank you to our panelists as well. God bless you too.
Thank you.